All right. Good morning. I'd like to start by acknowledging that we're gathered here today on the traditional territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. Thank you for joining me here this morning. Today, I want to provide an update on the next steps that our government is taking in response to the tragedy in Tumbler Ridge. Like everyone across BC and the globe, in fact, I'm heartbroken by the tragedy on February 10th that has profoundly affected the people of Tumbler Ridge and our entire province. Our thoughts remain with the families of those who lost loved ones, the people who were injured, and the entire Tumbler Ridge community as they continue to grapple with the devastating tragedy. No family or community should have endured this kind of grief, and we stand alongside the people of Tumbler Ridge as they mourn and move through the long process of healing. As the community continues to heal, our government remains focused on supporting those affected. Accountability is also part of that process. When there are serious concerns that opportunities to prevent harm were missed, we as a government have the responsibility to act. We owe that to the victims, their families, and everyone whose life was changed by this tragedy. We owe it to ensure that this never happens again. The province is preparing legal action to hold artificial intelligence company OpenAI and its decision makers accountable for their failure to notify law enforcement of the violent prompts made on its ChatGPT platform by their perpetrator prior to the tragedy in Tumbler Ridge. We've retained legal counsel in both BC and California to explore all avenues to hold OpenAI and its decision makers accountable. OpenAI is headquartered in California, and we are prepared to take this fight to them. This work is still in its early stages, but I can share now that we'll be working alongside legal counsel in BC and British and California to ensure accountability and secure support for community rebuilding efforts, including the construction of a new Tumbler Ridge school facility. Our focus is on following the evidence, pursuing accountability, and standing up for the people affected by this tragedy. That work will take time, but we are committed to exploring every available option at our disposal. No company or corporate leader, no matter how large, should escape accountability when public safety is at stake. I look forward to sharing an update on this work in due course. British Columbia has never shied away from taking on powerful corporations when their actions cause harm to people and communities. Our government has a long track record of holding powerful corporations accountable when their products or practices cause harm to people and communities, and we've been successful. We won against Big Tobacco, securing a landmark settlement of $3.6 billion for British Columbia and billions for our healthcare system across the country. And just last week, the BC Court of Appeal dismissed the final barriers holding up our class action lawsuits against opioid manufacturers and distributors and their consultants. This is no different. We will use the courts to pursue accountability and ensure that British Columbians are not left bearing the costs of corporate wrongdoings. The events of February 10th will forever remain a dark chapter in our province's history. Nothing can undo what happened, but the steps I'm outlining today are about seeking accountability and justice. Justice for the families who lost loved ones, for those who were injured, and for a community that is navigating unimaginable pain and preventable loss. While no legal process can undo the harm that was done, pursuing accountability is an important part of supporting recovery and helping the community move forward. The people of Tumbler Ridge are not facing this tragedy alone. British Columbians stand with them, and our government will continue to support the community as they heal. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this morning. For the media on the line, please press *1 to enter the queue. You'll have one question and one follow-up. We will start with questions in the room. Please state your name and your outlet. You'll have one question and one follow-up. Go ahead.
Hi, Lauren Collins, Black Press Media. Will this be attached to the suits that have already been filed down in California or separate entirely?
We are coordinating with the families that have commenced a lawsuit, as they've stated publicly, in California and BC. So we have been coordinating through our legal counsel with that claim. We are pursuing specific things related to the losses that the government faced.
And then is it the hope that if there is any money that comes out of this, that that will be for the financial recovery of Tumbler Ridge?
That's right.
Romina Deo with Global News. Thank you, Minister. Minister, you talked about you're in the early stages, you have counsel in California and here in British Columbia. Can you give the public just a little bit more information, some detail as to what you mean by early stages? Where are you at? How tangible is this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it starts from our desire to hold OpenAI accountable for any actions that could have prevented the harm that happened in Tumbler Ridge. I think the public knows about the information that shows that there were some employees there that knew that asked for reporting of such things that were happening on the chatbot. What I can say now is that we've retained legal counsel in BC and California to pursue our legal options. I'm going to commit to you all that I will keep you updated on the options that we pursue. We hired California lawyers to make sure that we could take the fight to them with their headquarters if needed. We're in the early stages of looking at what the options might be for legal action, and we'll keep you posted.
Could you give us the names of the lawyers or the firm?
There are two firms. So we have our BC Council CFM lawyers in Vancouver, and Stranch, Jennings, and Garvey is the council in California.
And Minister, you talk about an update in this matter. What about an update regarding the many unanswered questions in this case that the public is still seeking answers for? This case is not going to trial. The killer is dead. His mother was killed. There are many questions about how weapons were seized from the home, how they were returned to a home where there were multiple interactions with police regarding mental health issues, apprehensions under the Mental Health Act. What about an update there for the public and transparency about that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good question, and I want to assure the public that there are different avenues of getting answers that are underway right now, and we as a government will make sure that through this process of investigation and the public inquiries that are to come, that all of those questions that you asked will be answered. Right now, the RCMP are conducting an investigation, and of course they're leading that, so we're protecting that investigation by ensuring that they're the lead on what information comes out or doesn't come out. The coroner service has committed to doing a public inquiry. There is a broad area of tools that they have for releasing information and answering some of the questions that you have asked. This is one avenue of accountability. I think it's important that we understand all of the things that happened that led to this tragedy and do what we can in every step of the way to prevent this from happening again in the future. Although we are under these different processes right now, I can guarantee the public that we will use every tool we can as a government to make sure that those questions are answered.
Our next question.
Brenna Owen, CP. Could you just explain the decision to explore suing in California as well, and did the potential for a bigger payout there play a role?
We want to make sure that we're using every legal tool that we possibly can. OpenAI is headquartered in California. It's important that we have both BC Council and California Council to take the fight to them if we need to in California. So at this stage, we want to make sure every tool available for accountability is present, and that will include making sure that we're covering off California Council.
Yeah, and just to follow up, what are the government's channels of communication with the families of victims, right, and victims themselves right now, and what is their role in this work?
Yeah, that's an important question. So we and our legal counsel have been coordinating with the claims that the families have made and pursued, and we fully support them in seeking accountability and remedies for what they suffered against OpenAI. And so we will coordinate and continue to coordinate any legal actions we take with those families.
Just in general, though, like just
Yeah.
Even beyond the legal action, your communication with.
Yeah, so there are many ways that I think are, as a government, there's communication with the families and support. We have a community response team. Many supports still existing in Tumbler Ridge, whether it's mental health supports, victim supports, or other health needs that might be there. So different ministries are communicating at different levels with the families to make sure they're supported. We will do everything we can once we hear about what the needs are to respond. As the AG and of course the legal steps are in my ministry, but it's not limited to that. We're communicating in many ways with the families.
Our next question is from Rob Buffin, CTV News. Rob, go ahead.
Oh, hi, Minister. Thanks for taking my question. My first question is just, I guess, kind of seeking clarity in a legal context here. Can you confirm whether or not some of the families have actually had their lawsuits certified as a class action? There's been reference to that, but I don't know if it's formally been certified. Is the lawsuit that you're contemplated, I take it it's not been drafted in terms of pleadings, but is it contemplated that you would join a class action as the provincial government? And are the damages the type of thing you're looking at? For example, the $100 million that the province has pledged towards a new school, as well as things like overtime salaries and things in the immediate aftermath of this tragedy.
Yeah, happy to clarify that. So we are coordinating with the families and their lawsuit. I think they're at similar early stages in those proceedings, and we'll continue to coordinate with them as we pursue our legal recourse. And that would mean all of those steps about whether it leads to a filing or discovery and all those different steps of litigation as this moves forward. We are pursuing damages that on behalf of the government, and that would include the cost of building a school, for example, or any other costs that we incurred as a result of this tragedy. Again, in early stages of thinking and finalizing that, but at this point, the claim is broad.
Rob, do you have a follow-up?
And by way of, yeah, I do. Thank you. Just by way of follow-up, I wanted to kind of circle back on your response to Ramina's question. I recall hearing a while ago that the RCMP investigation was in its final stages, and the Premier, correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding was that was expected to wrap up soon and the coroner's inquest would commence following that. I'm hoping to get a bit more of a specific timeline as to when the coroner's inquest might start. And in relation to a public inquiry, you did mention the words public inquiries to come. There's been a debate about whether that's needed. Can you shed any further light as to whether we will also get a public inquiry in addition to a coroner's inquest, or does that depend on what the coroner's inquest yields?
Yeah, thanks for those questions. So first of all, the timelines of the investigation are held with the RCMP. So I think those questions are better directed towards them of when they expect those to finalize. Of course, my role as AG, I respect their independence with respect to their investigation and what they feel like they need and the time they need to take. It's a really important investigation, obviously, for the province. Those decisions will lead to, we know that BC Coroner Service has said that they will do an inquiry. So that's one that will be there. We are committed to pursuing all avenues to get answers to questions that some of you have, but also families and the public. So at that point, at different stages, we'll make sure that whether it's through a public inquiry or with the coroner's inquest, that all those answers all those questions are answered.
Our next question is from Alec Lazenby, Vancouver Sun. Alec, go ahead.
Hi, Minister. I just wanted to get some more clarity on the timeline around this. I know you said it's still in the early stages yet, but do you have an idea? You've obtained legal counsel, but do you have an idea of when you'll be filing? And you said the claim is fraud. Can you get a little bit into why that's the, measure that you're putting forward in terms of claiming that OpenAI was fraudulent in their actions here?
Okay, so I'll start by saying that we're in the early stages again. So I am being transparent. We want to be transparent given the fact that this is such a huge tragedy and that the public deserves to know what steps the government is taking. So I will commit, and that's why I'm coming to you in the early stages of this legal process, that we've retained counsel, that we're pursuing our legal action to be public with that. And every step of the way when we have made our decisions in terms of how we're pursuing that legal action. We'll make sure that we are letting the public know about that as well as this evolves and develops. It was the biggest tragedy, or one of the biggest tragedies we've had in this province, where children lost their lives, a school teacher lost their life. It's something that we every day wake up and reckon with as a government about what we need to do to support the families, to make sure this doesn't happen again. Part of that is corporate responsibility. I think we were all shocked when we heard that there might have been an opportunity to prevent the loss of life that this province suffered. That there was a group of people that were aware of messages on OpenAI that were alarming enough to them to say we should report to the police, and that never happened. These tools, AI and the risks that they pose to the public, it's our responsibility now as a government to make sure that actors that are putting these risks and these harms to the public are accountable.
Look, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, just in terms of the ways that the provincial government is helping out Tumbler Ridge, I know that you're looking at constructing a new school alongside the federal government, but what else is being done? Maybe this would be a better question for the Minister of Health, but I'll ask you this. What is being done in terms of mental health resources, in terms of helping the community rebuild that way, in terms of making sure that the community has the health care that they need? Because I know they were they were short healthcare workers in that community. Just wanted an update on where all of that is at.
Yeah, I'm happy to provide you. I have a pretty extensive list right now of all the mental health supports that we've stepped up for the community. I'm happy to read them over just to make sure that the public and you all know about it. So we've provided sustained support to the Tumbler Ridge Community Centre that houses Northern Health Specialist Mental Health Services and BC Children's Mental Health Clinical Team, which is providing services to the community. There's continued daily access to drop-in counseling and rapid mental health assessment at Tumbler Ridge Health Centre daily. Bereavement Helpline is active and remains active in serving the people of the community or anybody in BC. Services at the Tumbler Ridge Health Centre continue to be supported by nursing and allied health professionals from across BC, child and adolescents mental health clinicians and psychiatrists from BC Children's Hospital, providing supports virtually and in person for youth and children with mental health needs. And there are helplines that are in place that are 24 hours a day to support the community, and happy to provide you with the details of all the contact information for those services.
Our next question is from Mike Hager, Globe and Mail. Mike, go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry, I just want to pivot. There's been a massive operation south of the border to arrest a number of individuals in California. Some have been part of the Bishnoi network, apparently, and then two other groups, including a group run by a Mr. Danda, who was operating out of Surrey, it looks like, importing methamphetamines and cocaine from the U.S. into Canada. Wanted to know what you make of this operation and how many people have been arrested in Canada related to Operation Hardball.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Mike. I'll have to get back to you on the details of what's happened in Canada. We were the government that called for the federal government to make the Bishnoi gang a terrorist, to designate them as a terrorist group. That gives a whole bunch of added powers to our law enforcement to go after them. And certainly we as a province have seen the violence that they've inflicted on our people. So, I'm happy to give you more information about those responses and maybe ask the Solicitor General if we can provide that for you.
Mike, do you have a follow-up?
Always, thanks. So one of the people named in news reports south of the border is the Bishnoi Lieutenant Goldie Brar. He has been operating in Canada for years, allegedly evading law enforcement. What do you know about his whereabouts, and how concerned are you that the Bishnoi network still appears to be quite active in Canada?
Yeah, I mean, we're concerned as a government, and that's why we asked for the Bishnoi gang to be designated as a terrorist organization because of the impacts that our communities are having from their gang activity. I'm not personally aware of the whereabouts of individuals from that organization, but we need to make sure our legal system is tooled up to respond, and our police enforcement system is why we've invested so much in our specialized gang teams in the RCMP. It's why we've asked for the designation of a terrorist organization, and we'll keep at it. And I think that does require a lot of coordination with the federal government.
Our next question is from Matt Prepost, CBC. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good morning. Thanks to my colleagues. Everything I had to ask has been answered. Thanks.
Albert Tulsi Fairchild. Albert, go ahead.
Hello. Will this set a precedent to sue AI company for fraud? Is there any similar examples in U.S. Having similar lawsuits?
Maybe it's a chance to correct it. It's not fraud necessarily that we're pursuing as a legal action, but it is an example that BC has been a leader of, which is the type of litigation where the public, whereas the AG in my ministry, take on powerful corporations to recover on behalf of the public. This is a model we had with Big Tobacco. It's a model we have with the opioid companies. And we will use that same vigor to pursue OpenAI for any accountability for the harm that they did to people in British Columbia for failing to prevent such a tragedy.
Albert, do you have a follow-up?
If this case is before the court, will that be releasing any further information from the government?
Well, I'll commit. We're in the early stages of this proceeding in terms of pursuing our legal options, and I'll commit to making sure that when there are updates that I'll let you all know.
Our next question is from Rob Brown, Post Media. Rob, go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. Bringing it back to the key word of the day, accountability after this huge tragedy. What responsibility does the government have through the school, board and administration and lower that allowed this student to slip through the cracks and not attend for years, and then prior to the tragedy, the lack of mental support in the community that leads this child to reach out to a computer to search for answers.
Yeah, we feel like our role as a government is to understand how this tragedy happened and take all the necessary steps to prevent it from happening again. And that includes examining what led to this, all the steps that led to this tragedy, and what supports are needed to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So I wouldn't say, if it's under the side of your question, that as a government we're not eagerly looking at how we can ensure this doesn't happen and what actions could have been taken in that regard. This is about specific accountability from a corporate actor who definitely was part of this story and could have had an opportunity, we say, to prevent the tragedy from happening because of the information that they had about the perpetrator beforehand.
Rob, do you have a follow-up?
Certainly, if RCMP or other investigations officially reveal whomever or whatever provided the guns for this student and provided the access to them, would the government be considering pursuing litigation against them?
You know what? I'm eagerly awaiting the results of the investigation and how the coroner's inquiry goes and what further information that we can find out about how this happened and what could have been done to prevent it. So I guess it's a wait and see answer.
We'll go back to in person. Please go ahead.
Minister, you mentioned that in these types of large lawsuits against companies to hold them accountable, that the government has been successful. Has the BC government received 1 cent from this $3.6 billion, the tobacco lawsuit, the opioids decision that's recently come down in the courts?
Yeah, so the $3.6 billion, that was the settlement. The final steps of that were geez, I'm losing track of time, but a while ago. So yeah, the 3.6 was billion, and there's actually a plan over 10 years about how the payments are received by the government. Yeah, we have received our first payment on that. We've also settled with Purdue for 130 million, which was the largest, one of the largest settlements against the opioid. Prior to the tobacco was the largest in history against a company.
Has Purdue paid any of that money yet?
You know what? I got to follow up on how the money's been paid out and what the status of that is, because I think that's a bit more complicated. Because Purdue is also part of a big bankruptcy proceeding.
And how much have you received from tobacco?
At this stage, I think is it 1 billion? Yeah, a little bit less than $1 billion. Yeah.
Our next question is from Amelia Manauer from CBC Radio Canada. Amelia, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. Can you hear me well? Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Okay.
Yeah,
yeah, thank you. Yes, I was wondering, Minister Sharma, are you thinking of bringing back, with everything that's happened, are you thinking of bringing back the legislation that you paused, the one with where you were considering, putting some things in place to protect young people from harm from platforms like Meta, Snapchat, and things like that? Do you think that your government will put something in place again to kind of go with what the federal government has adopted?
Thanks for the question. We have been we switched our advocacy to asking the federal government to put protections in place nationally because of the power that has, instead of each province developing something different when it comes to online safety and accountability. But we are eagerly watching and engaged with the federal government as they've introduced that piece of legislation. In my view, it's largely a framework piece of legislation that has a lot of steps that will come after, including setting up the oversight, figuring out what the clear guidelines and rules are for the companies that are at play. I'm going to be watching, and I've asked Minister Miller for us to be involved. I want to make sure that anything that's set up at the federal level has enough teeth. We've learned lessons, really unfortunate lessons from what happened in Tumbler Ridge about the intersection between technology and AI and harms that could happen. We want to make sure it never happens again, and that includes either setting up a strong legislative and regulatory framework that makes sure that there's safety and reporting that's mandatory at different stages to prevent harm, and making sure there's real accountability for these actors when they don't. I think Australia just upped their fines for action into the multi-millions. These are the kind of tools that we need to have in place in Canada. And we'll be strongly advocating through federal government now with their framework legislation to set up make sure it has teeth. If it doesn't, then yes, I will be looking to see what BC can do to fill in any gaps.
Amelia, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, thank you for that answer, Minister. I'm just going to switch gears. I just wanted to talk about the nurses that are on strike. They're saying that the health employers are interfering with lawful job action, talking about some bullying going on. And so that's prompting additional picket lines at Surrey Memorial Hospital. So I just was wondering what your government is doing to kind of appease the situation and just get to some sort of.
So, of course, we're a government that supports the right of workers to strike and that the power of labor to improve working conditions for people. And we hope that at the collective bargaining table that all issues can be resolved. And with the specifics of these, I'm happy to direct it to the Ministry of Labor to get more information.
Our last question will be from Rob Buffin, CTV News. Rob, go ahead.
Oh, hi. Thanks again. I just wanted to clarify, in terms of the comments or the discourse that happened involving AI and the perpetrator here, does the government know at this point what those comments are? And I guess I'd ask if you could share them. But I also want to know, we've heard so much about things that should have triggered a notification to the police, and you've retained lawyers to bring a lawsuit in relation to these comments. Do you know what the comments are, and can you share what they were?
So at this stage, I know what you know, and what's in the public realm related to the interactions that happened inside OpenAI before the tragedy happened. Of course, when you pursue legal options and litigation, it gives you different avenues of discovery and getting access to information. And that would also be part of any lawsuit that was filed here. The RCMP, my understanding is that they also have employed their tools to get the information from various sources for their investigation. So it's something that we, of course, through all the different ways that information will get revealed, as I mentioned, through the coroner's inquest, the RCMP investigation, and all of that. I think the public has a lot of questions that they want answered related to that.
And that concludes today's event. Thanks so much.